So now that we have our object pool, let's look into how to connect it up into our GameObject utility. We'll open up the GameObject utility and start adding in the code we need. Now, we'll want to manage all of the object pools in our game. In order to do this, we're going to create something called a dictionary. A dictionary allows us to have a key and a value. In this case, we're going to type the key to a specific type of prefab, and the value will match to the corresponding pool. This will help us look up where each of the pools are whenever we need to create a new instance. In order to do this, we're going to need to import the generic collections again. So copy the system's collection line and add in generic. Now, let's add the following property to the top of our utility. Now, it's important to note that since both of these methods are static, and we want this class to be completely static, we're going to have to also make our property static as well. This way, they will always be stored inside of the reference of the class itself, since we're never creating an instance of the GameObject utility. Let's start by making a private static dictionary. And our dictionary is going to need to be typed to two things. One, the type of recycled GameObject we're going to be creating, and two, the object pool instance itself. Now, we'll call this dictionary pools, and we'll instantiate it in line. Now, let's create a new private static method that'll return us the instance of the pool based on the GameObject we're requesting. We'll make this private static. We're going to return an instance of an object pool, and we're going to call this method getObjectPool. And now we need to pass in a reference to the type of recycled GameObject we want to find the pool for. So let's start with a recycled GameObject type, and we'll call this reference. Next, we'll create a variable that'll contain a reference for the pool, and we'll set this to null for right now. Now, in order to access the dictionary, we need to make sure that the key actually exists. If not, the dictionary would throw an error. So here, we're going to look at their pools, and we're going to look for contains key, the key being the reference we're passing in. Now, if the pool already contains the reference, what we'll do is we'll set the pool value to equal that reference. In order to access the key inside of the dictionary, we simply use brackets at the end of the pool's variable name. And here we'll just simply supply reference as our key. Now, if we don't have the pool, we're going to need to create it from scratch. Here we'll start by actually creating the pool. We'll call this pool container, and we're going to make a new GameObject. This will just be a generic GameObject that sits in our scene and is a way for us to store the reference of the pool script on it. Next, we're going to supply a name for the GameObject. Here, we're going to use the reference GameObject's name itself, plus the word object pool. Next, we'll add the object pool script to our new pool container and set it to the pool value. Now we'll need to set the pool prefab property to equal the reference we're passing in so that the pool knows which type of objects to create. And finally, we'll add the pool to our dictionary. Here you'll see we're using reference as the key and the instance of the pool as its value. At the end of our method, we're going to return the pool instance that we either got from the dictionary already or created from scratch. Now, at the top of our utility, where we call instantiate, let's change this to take advantage of using the pool. We're going to want to make sure that the prefab we pass in actually is a recycled GameObject. In order to do this, we're going to simply look to see if the prefab contains a component for the recycled script. Next, we'll test that recycled script does not equal null. In this case, we can create a reference to a pool by getting the actual object pool and passing in our instance of the recycled script. Then we'll set the instance value to equal pool next object, passing in the position we need to create it at. And also, we're going to need to get simply the reference to the GameObject, since our method always returns GameObjects. If for some reason the GameObject we pass in doesn't have a recycled script, we'll go back to creating it how we did before. Now let's save our code, go back into Unity, and we'll run our game. Now, when an object gets created, you'll see we have an obstacles object pool, and if we open this up, all of the obstacles are now inside of the object pool. In the next video, we'll talk about how to get the references of the ones that are being disabled so we can finish off the pool and have it fully recycling all the game objects we create.